Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Board meeting for Tuesday, July 21, 2020. By way of introductions, I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board this year. Also present is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Minister and Commissioner Gary Edwards, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and I don't know who else might be. I saw Under Sheriff Tim Braniff. Can you introduce others for us?
Yeah,
Ramiro?
Commissioners, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, we have Under Sheriff Tim Braniff, we have Brian Mayer, and Mark Muffett so far.
Wonderful. With that, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Gary Edwards.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And right after this, well, thereabouts after this meeting, but thereabouts 3 o'clock, we have a public hearing to get into regarding Long Lake Management District. So is there a meeting, I'm sorry, is there a motion to approve the agenda for today?
Move to approve agenda for Tuesday, July 21st, 2020.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve today's agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda or discussion? Nope. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. And the board meeting minutes from July 14, 2020.
Move to approve board meeting minutes from July 14, 2020.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the board meeting minutes from July 14th. Are there any corrections that need to be made? Nope. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to number one, the agenda item number one, an opportunity for the public to address the board. And the typical rules for engagement are: please introduce yourself, including your address, where you reside in the county, address the board and not staff or the audience. Please silence your cell phones if you haven't done so. We do not respond to public comment typically, but on a needed basis, the county manager may follow up with specific items. Speakers are limited to a total of 3 minutes to address the board, and you cannot donate your time to another person. The board reserves the right to restrict a person's opportunity to address the meeting for a good cause, and we ask you please be respectful, nothing lewd, offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in any way. No outbursts. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as for a for-profit business. Any material that is provided to the county may be subject to public release upon request pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 42.56 of the RCW. Remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters would not be appropriate either. And I'm going to turn to County Manager Ramiro Chavez to talk about no electioneering.
Yeah, and for any citizen who'd like to provide public testimony today via oral here or on the phone via conference call, to please refrain from making any comments that can be considered electioneering.
Thank you. There's only one person that has signed up, and that is John Pettit. And if you're ready to go.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live in East Olympia off Rich Road. I, of course, am following up on a couple of particular topics, but today I'm still addressing the upcoming Amendment 4 of the budget, which is there's going to be another hearing on in a little over a week. And there has been some discussion, and I wanted it to be very clear that the element of a question of defunding the sheriff's office, I'm adamantly opposed to. Now, there's been some comments that suggest we're not defunding the sheriff's office. Well, when you passed amendment number 3, you created a brand new budget, effective at that time. So whatever you do during amendment number 4 becomes a brand new action. So therefore, whatever you're doing is in fact the full force of an action to do something. Now, I use the example of the defunding of the sheriff's office. There's two sections in the proposed Amendment 4, which had tentative approval from both Commissioner Hutchings and Menzer, of which I want to read into the record what exactly these would do. One is under the item referred to as corrections. In that particular item, it states that there would be a reduced corrections general fund budget by $190,611 and an ER&R in amount by $10,325. The ER&R reduction is not going into the 2021-22 biennium. The general fund reduction of $190,611 is ongoing into the 21-22 biennium. The comment here, I draw absolute adamancy about defunding. It says, the only option for this level of reduction is for the Board of County Commissioners to eliminate 2 correction deputy positions. That's what I refer to as defunding. Now we'll go over to the law enforcement side, which we're talking about deputies on the road. And yes, you're looking at, you want to do a general fund budget reduction of $207,540, ER&R in the amount of $268,767. And to go right short to it, it says the general fund reduction of $207,540 is going into the 2021-22 biennium. The only option for this level of reduction is for the Board of County Commissioners to eliminate 2 deputy sheriff positions. I don't want you to defund. I don't want you to call it something else. Just please cancel the amendment out. Commissioner Edwards was the only one that was voting against defunding the sheriff's office. Thank you.
County Manager, was it about a month ago that the sheriff, when he submitted his proposal to the board, suggested just that, 2 sheriff deputy positions and 2 correction officer positions? Will you explain that, please?
I believe a little over a month ago, the sheriff's office, when the board asked to all the offices and departments to implement a 2% reduction, the sheriff's office provided an approach to keep vacant 2 positions in law enforcement, I believe, and 2 positions in the corrections side of the business. So that was the sheriff's office proposal at that time.
Thank you. And I also agree. That just makes for a good rhetoric and a soundbite, but this isn't defunding anybody. It's just a tightening of the belt countywide. So I am adamantly against that as well. So what he proposed, and now he just did. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
You haven't taken an action yet, Commissioner. You need to hold a public hearing. Yeah.
You're right. Commissioner Menzer?
Yeah. On that topic, if we defined defund as some reduction of the appropriation level, did the commissioners agree to defund the Public Works Department?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If we're defining defunding as a reduction of appropriation level, some manner or other,
right?
Did our decisions defund under that definition, for example, the Public Works Department?
If I go by your definition that you described, then you will be defunding many offices in the county.
And those would include the prosecuting attorney, public defense, the clerk, the Superior Court, community planning, public works, public health, among others.
That is correct.
Okay, so was the decisions related to the sheriff's office, again, using this terminology of defund, at any higher level or percentage than any of those other departments, at least with respect to general fund?
Proportionally not.
Okay, and wasn't in fact the sheriff exempted from a series of the decisions, such as some of the actions that related to 24/7 shift workers?
In terms of eliminated vacant positions or hiring freezes, yes, they were exempt.
So if we defunded the sheriff's office, we defunded every department in county government, basically, which is what you do when you have less revenue coming in. Is that fair?
I guess that's your conclusion, yes, Commissioner.
All right, thank you. And I believe all of us in leadership roles in the county have an obligation to be a part of the effort to suck in our gut and tighten the belt. That's just a responsible thing to do with the taxpayers' dollars at this point. Moving on, I neglected to introduce Amy Davis, our clerk of the board. Welcome, Amy, and thank you for being here and doing what you do.
Newly minted.
Newly minted, yes. All right, with that, we're going to move on to the county manager's update.
Yes, I'd like to follow up to a comment that Mr. Pettit provided last week, and that was related to the sales tax and some of the fluctuations between 2019 and 2020. At this point, I will probably give the floor to Robin Campbell. She would like to share the screen so the public can also see what she's going to be presented to you.
So good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Robin Campbell, the Assistant County Manager. And on the screen before you, what you see is the sales tax collections for each month from the Department of Revenue going back to 2005. Mr. Pettit had provided you a few years of revenue that he obtained from the Department of Revenue. He received the very high level numbers, and they are the same, I'm sure, as the ones that we use. And I believe that what Mr. Pettit was sharing with you last week was that collections through the month of June are higher in total than they were in 2019, and that is absolutely correct. Last year through June in 2019, the county collected $8.7 million in the first 6 months. And this month, year to date, we've collected just over 9 million for a 3.7% growth. However, overall, the county had planned on collecting 5% more revenue by the end of the year. And at this point in time, given the seasonality of sales tax revenues, had we been on forecast, we would have collected a little over $9.3 million, or been about 7% ahead of where we were last year. And what you see here is in comparison to the forecast in the months of May and June, which reflect sales tax that was collected by businesses in the months of March and April, you see that we are significantly below forecast. And in fact, even in collections in April, we're already coming in under forecast. And if this trend were to continue, what you would see is not only would our ending sales tax be above, it won't be above by 5%, but it will be significantly under forecast. And sales tax is the second largest revenue into the general fund. And this loss of revenue that we're anticipating through the rest of the year, we will end the year, if this trend continues, at least 10%, if not more, under where we thought we would be. These are the graphs that I've shared with you in the past. These should look familiar. These are the amount just based on money, and you'll see that we've been on a significant upward trend. And here's the seasonal pattern. It's down lower than it's been in the past. And we've been looking at this year-over-year trend. So I'm going to make this a little smaller too, where you see we've been, in almost every month going all the way back to 2013, we've had positive year-over-year growth. Until now, significant drop in year-over-year collections. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about our sales tax revenue, but that's where we are, and that's part of why we're predicting that our revenue collections are driving the need for a decrease in appropriation over the next 3 years.
Commissioners, have any questions of Robin? Commissioner Menser?
I think you covered it, Robin, but just to nail the point home, what had confused me about Mr. Pettit's presentation last week was the suggestion that we should use early part of the year, the strong return from early part of the year, to look at a year to date that would somehow tell us something about the rest of the year when we had a health pandemic happen in mid to late March. So that's the thrust of what I understand. I think you're confirming that my confusion about that was correct, that we really shouldn't be using strong sales tax returns. It's pretty much irrelevant in terms of what's going to happen for the rest of the year because we didn't have coronavirus then.
That's correct. The advent of the pandemic and the public health response to the pandemic has really changed what we can anticipate in the future. So nobody knows what's actually going to happen. It's just a forecast. And forecasts are notoriously wrong, but you wouldn't use strong economic revenues pre-pandemic to forecast what's going to happen post-pandemic.
Commissioner Edwards, anything?
Yes, I do. We're talking today about the general fund. Is that correct?
This is specifically general fund.
General fund, right.
The numbers look similar for other funds that we have that collect sales tax.
We didn't make any reduction in the non-general fund, did we? We reduced 2% in general fund, but did we make a same reduction in non-general fund?
No, commissioners. Instead, because of the timing, we have directed every office and department who has restricted funds to do an analysis of what they believe the impact of the revenue loss will be. County Manager Chavez and I will be reviewing those with department directors who have the majority of the restricted funds in the month of August, and we will be coming back to the board with recommendations of adjustments that need to be made to your restricted funds. Okay. They're on a slightly different timeline.
Just one more question. What's the projected fund balance on general fund for the end of the year now?
I would have to look that up. I don't have it handy, but it is well over 10 million. And as we've been talking about over the last few months, what we're doing is not because we believe that we'll drop below the need to meet cash balance this year, but we will in the next 2 years. And so the actions you're taking now are going to mitigate the impact of the reductions that need to come in 21 and 22.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd just like to add that Commissioner Edwards had talked about the sales tax bubble for the online internet type sales. And I talked with the EDC, Economic Development Council, and they said they can't confirm or deny whether that would be the case. It could very well be we get that increase in funds, but it could be we don't. Nobody can predict that. It's just an assumption or a presumption or a hope, which isn't a good strategy. And so I know that in my family, if I hear I may get a stimulus check, I don't go out and spend it until I get it. So if we tighten our belts and we get that big boost, that's great. We can start adding money to the departments and such. But if we don't, then we're prepared for the worst in case it happens. Is that correct? As far as you know? Okay. Anything else, commissioners? All right. Well, I thought you might like that validation, Commissioner Edwards, that it could happen. It could happen. And we're all hopeful that it does. All right. Thank you, Rob. Was there anything more on the county manager's update?
Nope, that's all I have for you, commissioners.
Okay, that takes us to agenda item number 3, the consent items A through C.
I move to approve consent items 3A, B, and C.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent items 3A, B, and C. Any further discussion on those items? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Agenda item number 4, we're getting into the departments, and it's the sheriff, the resolution to set jail rate detention rates.
You ready?
Yep. Go ahead,
Are
Undersheriff.
you going to start? We're going back to Tim Romero?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Undersheriff.
Okay. The sheriff's office is respectfully requesting to move to approve the resolution setting the rates for jail detention, work release, day reporting, and electric home monitoring. As discussed at the agenda setting, it's about over a 2.5 period of time and continuous based on the needs, but we did a recent study, rate study. The last one that was done for these particular rates was done in 1999. We felt that we needed to not only do the rate study, but also to see what the impacts and the increases were. They range from 7% to 8.3%, and most of them fall within that range over a 2.5 period of time. And we're requesting that the resolution be reviewed, adopted, and signed by the Board of County Commissioners.
Any questions for the Undersheriff? Commissioner Menser?
Undersheriff, you mentioned at the agenda setting, public might like to hear that under these rate schedule, I believe it's the corrections chief has the ability to work with folks if they're not able to meet based on need. Their adjustments are able to be made. Can you describe that?
Under our policy procedures within the jail, the program fees reductions, and waivers. On section 3 on fee reduction, he has the ability to designate a wage and financial obligation submitted by the inmate themselves. And there's 4 different categories which they can, based on what they're able to afford, that we can all the way down to 0. Basically, a fee reduction can be imposed, and it's reviewed every 30 days based on the inmate that's hopefully working and being able to garner some sort of wage. So that we do have that ability.
Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, that policy gave me a great confidence in the wisdom of this trying to recalibrate these rates. So I appreciate that.
And speaking of Chief Toma, it does get used quite often, and it allows them that opportunity to take advantage, not only to help them integrate themselves back into society, but also maintain and keep their job.
Commissioner Edwards, do you have anything?
No, sir. We've covered it.
All right. Undersheriff, I'd just like to say that Chief Todd Toma is doing an excellent job.
Yes, he is.
It's an amazing job he's performing. Thank you. If you'd pass it on to him, I'd appreciate it.
I will.
So is there a motion?
I move to approve a resolution setting the rates for jail detention, work release, day reporting, and electronic home monitoring, and to be in effect from September 1, 2020 to January 1, 2023, and adjusted annually thereafter by the Thurston County Corrections Facility based on the prior year's actual cost.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a resolution to set the rates for jail detention, work release, day reporting, and electronic home monitoring. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5 is Public Health and Social Services, and this is regarding Developmental Disabilities Administration Program.
I believe Mark Muffet is online, so he can unmute himself. Mark?
You there, Mark?
He's exited.
He,
Oh, wow.
he exited. So let me see if he's waiting on the waiting room.
He may have jumped out to get back in to get a better connection or something.
No, but I can probably cover for you if you like.
Sure, certainly, yeah, please. We had that briefing this morning.
Let me get my notes and I will get right down to it. Commissioner, the proposal before you is for you to approve an agreement with the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Administration, DDA. They will provide the county to implement programs related to developmental disabilities from July 1st, 2020 to June 30, 2021. The program amount, and this is the money we receive from the state, is $5,550,907. This particular allocation provides services to those individuals with developmental disabilities in Thurston and Mason counties. Some of the services that will be included, it will be a high school transition, community information and education activities, providing training, employment, and community inclusion. This is a new program, is the high school transition services, which provide opportunities for exploration of vocational interest, facilitating connections with adult services and working towards job attainment upon graduation from high school. Information and training activities build the skills of providers and increase public awareness of the developmental disabilities issues, as well as those individuals within the program. This particular proposal meets is aligned to the Thurston County Strategic Plan, initiative number 1, which is improve health outcomes for all, and initiative number 2, which is improve community health, wellness, and safety.
Has Mark joined us on the phone? I see one non-video participant.
No.
Okay.
He must have some technical difficulties, perhaps.
Yeah. Commissioners, do you have any questions of Romero on this issue?
I do.
Yes, certainly. Go ahead.
I don't really have a question, but I thought Mark Moffett did a very good job at this morning's briefing on this particular topic. And even if we can't get a hold of him at this point in time because of technical difficulties, I'd be willing to go ahead, take this action up.
All right. Commissioner Menzer, you have any questions or comments or a motion?
I'm good to go.
Okay, thank you.
I move to approve the county program agreement number 1963-57639 between Thurston County and the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services Developmental Disabilities Administration in the amount of $5,550,907 for the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. And authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign this agreement and future amendments that do not change this approved dollar amount by more than 10%.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the county program agreement number 1963-57639. Any further discussion? No. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Now we're winging our way to agenda item number 6, Public Works, PSE Facility Relocation Agreement.
Yeah, I believe Brian Mayer is online and he will be presenting the item for you this afternoon. Brian?
Yes. Hey, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Brian Meyer. I'm an engineer in Public Works. As part of our Marvin and Mullen Road intersection improvement project, Thurston County has acquired additional right-of-way from a private property owner. With this new right-of-way, a major transmission pole was in conflict with our planned improvements. The relocation of this pole requires the relocation of 2 other major poles and will include removal and reinstalling guy wires and other associated work. Since this pole was located outside the county right-of-way, the work does not fall within the existing franchise agreement for relocation at PSE's expense. The cost includes all planning, design, construction, management, and construction work. A facility relocation agreement between Thurston County and PSE needs to be executed prior to beginning any PSE utility relocation work. The estimated cost of this pole relocation is $170,000, $730.55, and is included in the project budget. And this aligns with our transportation improvement plan and capital facilities plan. Public Works is requesting the commissioners to move to approve the facility relocation agreement with Puget Sound Energy in the above stated amount for the completion of utility relocation work required for Marvin Road and Mullen, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute this agreement.
Thank you very much, Brian. Any commissioners have a question for Ryan? Question or comments? No? Okay. You must have done an excellent job, Brian. So is there a motion?
Move to approve the facility relocation agreement with Puget Sound Energy in the amount of $170,730, $170,730.55 for completion of power pole relocation work required for the Marvin Road and Mullen Road intersection improvements project, CRP number 61478, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the agreement and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the PSE facility relocation agreement. Is there further discussion, commissioners? Nope. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Agenda item number 7 is the county manager. This is where we start reporting in on the stuff that we have done as commissioners, our boards and assignments and work things. So I'll start with Commissioner Menzer this time.
Okay, busy week for me. Had a chance to meet with some stakeholders about a concept that I've talked to my seatmates about, but it's something that focused on reentry services, or a kind of a resource center for the criminal justice system. The county not necessarily taking financial responsibility, but pulling stakeholders together and trying to get a project off the ground to get reentry services are seen to be one of the best investments of public dollars for criminal justice outcomes and reducing recidivism. So we're looking at possibilities for something that would be really big, and we're able to, and we're seeing if we can even align those needs, which might be a year, out, a year of planning, with some of the short-term needs of our homeless response system. So there's some good conversations happening, and I was involved in many of those this past week. Sat in on a call with the governor and Secretary of Health regarding updated information about COVID-19 and some sobering information about where the state's headed right now. Attended the Thurston Thrives Climate and Clean Energy Work Group, which I usually do when my schedule permits. Took a tour of the record center for Thurston County to get a sense of where we store our records, how much space we have, what our needs might be, or and what efficiencies and improvements we're looking at making. Had a chance to attend a very interesting Law and Justice Council meeting that was had a featured speaker of Justice Gonzalez from the Supreme Court, who spoke about race and equity issues. Raised some very interesting topics for conversation, and it was a really good meeting. And the group determined to form, we're not sure that we want a subcommittee within Law and Justice, because we'd like about race and equity, because we'd like to have a broader community participation, but instead we agreed to form an ad hoc sort of group to chart out what the next steps ought to be, and kind of chart out a work plan or a course of action for this important topic. And that was, and then another, some other WASAC stuff with regard to COVID-19 and our Safe Start. So that was the net result of my week. in addition to my normal boards and assignments like intercity transit, lot, et cetera. Thank you.
Commissioner Menzer, who did you meet with regarding the race and equity?
Well,
Did you mention a judge?
yeah, Judge Stephen Gonzalez from the Washington Supreme Court agreed to be our kind of featured presenter on that issue, and then kind of facilitating a discussion amongst the Law and Justice Council.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Commissioner Edwards, you're up.
Yes, I just comment following up on Commissioner Menzer's that we meet on numerous boards and commissions. I'll bypass that and go to the hot topic of the week that I dealt with, and that will be an application in Pierce County. And this is an applicant by Fresh Start Housing, and that organization has an Olympia address, and the owner apparently is Sound Care Incorporated, which is a Tacoma address. And the interesting thing that came out of this is there have not been any public input meetings out in McKenna. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because this location is in McKenna, but when they made their application, they just conveniently put in there the community area, which is southwest Pierce County. But to all those residents that live in McKenna and surrounding area and the post office that they have there, it is known as McKenna. So I don't know if this was a bit of deceitful action or a mistake by the applicant, but I can say that the community is quite upset. There's an old folks home there that's within 100 feet of the Thurston County line. And that was built in 1930 as a bunkhouse for sawmill employees. And it's now being proposed to house 140 individuals in all types of recovery and disadvantaged need. So that covers a broad topic. The community feels like they're being misinformed about this particular topic, and so that's how come this has used up so much of my time over the past week. And I'll just let it go with that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. My week consisted of meeting with, not a virtual meeting, I actually was over the phone because of technical difficulties, Representative Dan Griffey regarding interests of county interests. This was on behalf of the county manager, Ramiro Chavez, and Deborah Magia, our lobbyist. We all met with him, talked about several things that we'd like to see get pushed through the next session, understanding there may not be a special session. There's a Thurston Thrives initiative called Partners, and I chair the Partners Steering Committee, and Partners is children, youth, and families. And the discussion surrounded filling the gaps. Where are the gaps that we see during this COVID episode or crisis that where children, families, or youth are left out? And we engaged in a really spirited discussion because broadband seems to be a major issue. Folks that don't have broadband, either in the South County or even in North County, they're relegated to patchwork. They drive somewhere like to a library and sit in the parking lot, or they go to somewhere else where they can get a hotspot and they can get in and work that way. So working with ESD and the Partners Steering Committee, we're looking at ways to help fill that need if we can. We also had last week the Regional Housing Council meeting, and we're getting ever close to signing an interlocal agreement with all the jurisdictions of the county, which should be signed by the end of September, maybe early September, because of vacation times and council's not meeting. But the ILA, that document is out to every jurisdiction now to have their legal eyes put on it, and it'll come back for a draft form again. It should be getting ready to be signed. And we talked about the cold weather betting and what we're going to do for cold weather when it gets here shortly. It's hard to think of that when it's in the 80s now. Last Friday, attended a steady meeting. That's the South Thurston Economic Development Initiative. And the on Friday was the mayor's meeting. It's the Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and Thurston County meeting. We meet on Fridays at noon for an hour and talk about items of mutual interest, and to communicate, keep the communication going and fostering a trustful relationship. Attended the Pac Mountain Consortium meeting, the final preliminary fiscal year 2020 budget. Yesterday, I took a tour with a husband and wife that live in the area of the LBA Park. Then I took a tour of the LBA Woods in behind where the extension road from Log Cabin over to Wiggins Road is being proposed. It was very insightful, very interesting. Attended the WASAC at lunch today, the Coronavirus Relief Fund meeting on Zoom, and state and city government coronavirus coordination call with the governor. I did that yesterday as well. The director of health, Dr. John Weisman, and the secretary, or the state health officer, Dr. Kathy Lofi, put on an excellent presentation that Commissioner Menzer referenced this morning. And the Safe Start and County Variance Zoom. And one more thing of interest, a couple of weeks ago, the Governor Inslee created a task force, and this task force is to study the implementation of the independent investigation of police use of force. And there's about 30 people, I think, on this task force, 20 to 30 people on the task force. And so the work is so complex and in depth that he created an advisory group to the task force. And WASAC put my name forward to sit on the advisory group to report to the task force. And the governor has accepted my nomination or my name to sit on that task force. So this Thursday is our first meeting as the advisory group. And I think we've had about 4 eras of policing in America, from Tammany Hall to the reform era to CompStat to COP, community-oriented policing. This very well may be an additional or new, the 5th era of policing or law enforcement in the United States, because it's a national type trend. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'll report back as we progress. And other than that, that's the extent of my week, and I go back to the county manager.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me walk you through your combined schedule for the upcoming week. Those appointments where at least 2 commissioners are present. You may have individual appointments on your individual calendars. Those will not be part of my report. Starting here in just about 20 minutes, you have a public hearing where you will be receiving public testimony related to rate increases on the Long Lake Management District. Moving on to tomorrow, Wednesday, July 22nd, 9:30 in the morning, you have a Board of Health briefing related to vaping in public places. 10:30, you have a briefing from the Thurston Climate Action Team, which they will be requesting some funding recommendations for the board to consider. 11:30 to 12:30, you have elected officials meeting where you will have an opportunity to connect with your fellow elected officials here in the county. It's an open forum, not any specific agenda has been developed. At 2 in the afternoon, you will have a hearing, briefing related to the Long Lake and Lawrence Lake proposed fee increases for 2021 and 2022 in preparation to the development of biennial budget for next year. And at 2:30, Public Works, tomorrow, July 22nd, will give you a briefing related to a utility consolidation study. Moving on to Thursday, July 23rd, 9 in the morning, you have a commissioner's check-in. The agenda for that meeting will be posted 24 hours in advance. And I believe Commissioner Edwards and Commissioner Menzer, I believe, participates on the Thurston Climate Action Mitigation Plan Steering Committee. And that meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 23rd from 12 to 2 in the afternoon. Friday, July 24th, you have yet another Zoom meeting with the Washington State Association of County and your fellow elected officials across the state related to the COVID-19 update. Moving on to Monday, July 22nd, You have yet another Zoom meeting with the Washington State Association of Counties. And this particular Zoom meeting is related to the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Monday, July 22nd, 2 in the afternoon, Commissioner Hutchins and Commissioner Minster will have the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization Governing Board meeting. And then the three of you will convene back again Tuesday, July 28th at 9 in the morning, where you will be reviewing the agenda for that day and the following week. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you. And what we're going to do is we're going to move into the public hearing at 3 o'clock. So we'll take a recess. We'll use the same Zoom that we're on now, Ramiro.
It's a different Zoom meeting, so I will ask you to unplug.
We will adjourn in this meeting. And just in case you were wondering, the 3:30 Transportation Benefit District meeting has been canceled. So we'll come back at 1500 or 3 o'clock for the public hearing. Let me ask the commissioners, anything for the good of the order before we adjourn?
I heard your question. I didn't hear the answer about, do we stay on this Zoom for the
No,
public?
we have a different Zoom.
Okay, got it.
All right. Thank you all for joining us, and see you in a few minutes. Bye-bye.